So, hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of Journey to Purpose. With us today, I have the really interesting Jessica Myers Adams. She's a relationship expert. Jessica, welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
First, really easy question is where in the world are you?
Yeah, I'm in the United States. I'm in Pennsylvania. Harrisburg is the capital, and I'm in the local capital here.
Nice. I've not been there yet, but one day I'll make it to Pennsylvania. So, relationship expert. That is quite a broad title. So, let's sort of hone in on how you got into that, but also what is it?
Yeah. Well, there's really two things that need to happen in communication, and it's very simple, but very hard to achieve. You need to be able to share in a way that expresses what you're thinking and feeling, and you need to have a person who's able to receive that message. So a sender and a receiver. But there are so many things that, complicate communication. So what I've been able to do is find a way to help couples really identify where their weakness is. And there's principles for each side for speaking and listening, and we get into those things. But it's not really a script because people need to be able to still express themselves. They don't want to be locked into using sentence stems or things that just don't work. So I want people to be authentic and be able to communicate more effectively.
Nice. And what made you choose this as a line of work? Was there something in your life, or did you just kind of fall into it?
Yeah. Well, I knew that I wanted to help people and I was, set on the trajectory of doing therapy. And then I fell in love and the honeymoon stage was amazing. And I knew that I found my person. And then the honeymoon stage ended. And there really is a honeymoon stage and there really is a second level to relationships. And a lot of people don't get to the second stage. And I was in danger of getting to the second stage myself. And so I really wanted to understand what was going wrong. I started studying to help couples, was seeing couples, and was still having a hard time in my own relationship until I figured out some really key principles, I would say.
And what were those? Can you share those principles?
Yeah. Well, I'll give you this. So this maybe would be the best example. So I had a clinician, a therapist come to me and she wanted me to supervise her and help her because not to toot my own horn, but I will. Couples therapists locally, when they can't help a couple, they'll sometimes send them to see me. And so I had this therapist who I was talking with and she was telling me that she was telling a wife to tell her husband what she wanted. And I was like, that's the worst thing ever. It's like the wife has paid someone to help her make the relationship worse. And she, as we were talking, one of the things that I was sharing that she could try to help the wife with was to have a goal for herself. This probably, I don't know if this will make sense, but I told her the wife needs an autonomous goal, a goal that is going to make her better and not be focused on the partner. And she said, so the wife might ask, how can I help you? And I was like, no, that's the worst question ever. If I say to you, how can I help you? That is a question about me still. It is not a question about you. And so the question that I want to be asking is, what would help you? Do you want any help? Things that are about you, not about me. And so the therapist was like, I never would have, I'm doing it all wrong. And so I think even therapists, as myself 10 years ago, I was telling couples to tell their partner what they wanted without being curious. Can the partner do it? What's it going to cost them? Those kind of questions. So I think the principles are being able to say things that don't make your partner defensive and being able to be curious. I think those are the two biggest principles.
I love that because also I was just thinking you could apply that in other relationship situations, not just couples. How many
Sure.
times in a work environment, how I remember from my days of managing teams of what do you need to get this done? How can I help you? As
Yeah.
opposed, the language is very, very different and it definitely changes the pressure on the individual. Because also some people don't want other people to help them, right? They want to be able to figure that out for themselves, I guess. And that's part of this reframing of the approach.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that in the therapy world, and I'm not a very good individual therapist, that's not my area of expertise, but we're trying, if you are an individual therapist, probably your goal is to ask questions. I used to get really crazy if I'd see a therapist, then they would just be silent and be asking questions. But isn't that the best way to help somebody solve their problem is to ask them questions? How do you think this would help you? If you tried that, what do you think would happen? Those are questions that are going to help the individual get where they want to go. And we're just so quick. We're so, I guess, self-centered, and we think that we have to be involved in it. It's kind of making a unilateral decision. It's taking the autonomy away from the person completely. So I think we
Yeah.
could use a lot more curiosity.
Curiosity is definitely key with relationships, with couple relationships. I remember was it in the 90s? Men are from Venus, men are from Mars, women from Venus, and that was considered quite groundbreaking at the time. Probably if you looked at it now, it seemed quite outdated. But there definitely is or there definitely seems to be a difference in communication styles between men and women. Do you think that is true in your experience, or is it just a case of we just, is it a gender thing, or is it just a communication thing, full stop?
Well, I think that, it's stereotypical to think that men are this way and women are this way because I have some men some of my clients who are very emotional and the wife is very logical. So I think there is a Mars and Venus, but I don't know if it's man and woman. I think it's more like, Venus or Mars, right? Are they more of the person who wants to just fix it and they're really focused on solution,
Mm.
or are they really focused on trying to please the other person, right? Because there's almost like I would call it a me pleaser, meaning the person is trying to please themselves, and then there is a person who's the people pleaser who's trying to make the other person happy, and both of those are really ineffective. So if the people pleaser in a sense can start asserting themselves to share what they think and feel, they're going to be better off. And if the person who's just trying to please themselves can get some curiosity, then they're going to benefit the relationship.
Makes sense. And with the transition from the honeymoon to you said the second stage period,
Yeah.
I mean, how big is that gap, do you see in your clients in the work around you? Is there lots of work to be done, I'm guessing, is the question.
Yeah, there is. I would say that almost all of the clients that I see are stuck in the first stage of the relationship. They're still trying to get back to what they were thinking and feeling in the beginning. And the problem with that is that in the honeymoon stage, or when you're joining, there is a sense of we-ness, right?
Hmm.
There's not a whole lot of me. So I kind of suspend what I think and feel in order to make the relationship successful, in order to build a foundation, which is really, really important. And when that collapses, and the reason it collapses is because at a certain point, when the hormones start to wear off, right? And when we start to have the fear come back, because a lot of us, when we're falling in love, we don't have anxiety. We don't really have a whole lot of fear. Now, that's not full stop, but for a lot of people, it's really diminished. Right. And so when that stuff starts to come back, that gets in the way of communication. And then the other thing that gets in the way of, I would say, progressing is that usually one partner will be a little bit ahead of the other one, and they'll start to want to do things outside of the relationship. They'll want to assert themselves in certain ways to maybe they had an interest or a desire, an individual pursuit, and the other partner is pulling them back, trying to keep them in that, that we stage. And it really does have to be two individuals in a relationship for it to be intimate. Now, you can be
Hmm.
in a relationship. There was a cartoon in the New York Times once, and it was like this wife had made her husband wear the same outfits, like the same pattern as her for 30 or 40 years. And people were like, oh, isn't that sweet? And no, that's not sweet at all, right? Because she's probably trying in a way to keep him like her. And the
Hmm.
problem with that is there's not a whole lot of intimacy then. Into me, you see. So, like, what is going on with me and how am I different from you? And so, if you're trying to, get your partner to agree in arguments and, all kinds of things, they have to see it your way. There is not really a sense of two people. It's kind of you've taken over that other person.
I guess over a period of time, resentment can build up, or I mean, that's a really interesting case study. I don't know how many relationships that happens in, but if I'm the man, potentially in that relationship, at some point I'm going to go, who am I? Like,
Yeah.
why am I? How did I become to this way? And I guess that can have quite extreme results, divorce and relationship breakdown.
Yeah. And you said about how likely or how frequent is that pattern. And I would say there are three patterns that I've identified for relationships when they're in trouble. A fourth category would be the healthy relationship. The one type of partner is a partner. Yeah, they would say partner because you could have you likely have two different partners. So one partner feels the forgotten partner is what I call them. And the forgotten partner is very focused on trying to get what they want, which there's nothing wrong with trying to get what you want or trying to express that. They feel forgotten because they're expressing it and then their partner isn't doing or acting in the way they're wanting. So they ask for something and then their partner doesn't do it. So they tend to feel forgotten. And that partner is the one that doesn't have the curiosity, right? They're the one that's more, they have the skill of being able to express themselves, but they don't have the skill of curiosity. So they're wondering, or they're making up stories why the partner isn't doing the thing they want. And the reason the partner may not be doing it is they may not be able to, they may not be understanding, all kinds of things. That's
Mm.
one. There's an unseen partner, and that's the one you really talked about. They're the resentfully compliant partner. So they go along with things, they try to keep the peace, they really avoid conflict, and they end up not being seen for what they're thinking and feeling. So they have a lot of understanding of what's going on with the forgotten partner, but they don't have a lot of say about themselves. I would say there's a confused partner who doesn't really know themselves or know what's going on with their partner, and they're probably leaning out of the relationship, if that makes sense. They're
Hmm.
not sure about either direction. And then I would say we have the emotionally connected partner, and that is the one that has both those skills of being able to talk about themselves, and they're also able to understand their partner's limitations and what they're thinking and feeling. That's the place we want to get to.
Interesting. Nice. And I was just working that through, and with partners with the type 1, 2, 3, does it manifest in terms of it in all of the relationship, or other aspects of this comes out? So one thing I always think of is like money is a big cause of problems in relationship. Would you see that forces of the relationship being um my words aren't coming. Would it be reflected in one of those partner types? Would it be everything is that way? Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, sure. Well, I think that some issues are not a big deal. So if we have an unseen partner, and I put these in quadrants, right? So we have the unseen partner, I put it in the quadrant on the top left, and the forgotten partner in the bottom right. I don't know, that's just the way I draw it out for all of my clients. If you have a money problem, that means that probably for the unseen partner, it is a big enough issue for them to try to assert themselves, right?
Right.
For most other things, they may just be like, I don't really care too much, but there may be the money thing, may be their trigger. So I don't know that it would be for everything, because
Hmm.
some things really, I think, this may not be true. I have not really thought about this too much, but I think the unseen partner tends to not get as riled up about a lot of things. So they may not really care about a lot of things and go with the flow. Because I would not think in a forgotten partner, the partner who's very assertive and vocal, sometimes not effectively, but they're not going to go with the flow, right? They're going to be kind of keeping track, right? They're going to keep track of when they make a sacrifice, and it's going to be very exaggerated in their mind. And I can relate to that, because I would exaggerate anything that I did, thinking, that I was a very curious partner, when indeed I was very curious about myself, not my partner, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. And I was just thinking, at what point do these really become an issue? Think about my marriage, sorry, husband. I do most of the planning because I like planning. I like travel, and I often go away without him because he doesn't want to come with me. But I always make sure if he wants to do a thing that he gets to do it, because that's kind of the agreement is. Often he doesn't care, and I'm
Hmm.
thinking in that relationship, is he an unseen partner, or is he just generally doesn't care, and therefore I take control because I do care.
Yeah.
And obviously for us, it seems to work. But is that the kind of thing where over time it can create issues? Again, I'm not worried about my own
Yeah.
relationship, but just as an
Yeah.
example.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, well, I love that one thing that you said that is going to ensure that it is not an issue is that you have curiosity and you have that conversation. And I would say continue to have that conversation each time, because if we start to assume because that's how they've been, that's when the issue can pile up, right? And I think if we ask, because I would ask sometimes in some of my couples or my partners, because it's the one person probably, right? They could ask, but they could make it very unsafe to say the answer, right?
Interesting.
There's a type of partner, I call them, I forgot the word, the lie inviter. Try
Right.
and wrap your mind around that. It's almost like you invite them to lie to you because your reaction is going to be so big. So if I don't want my
Yeah.
partner to go on vacation with me and I want to go, I'm going to, present it to them in such a way, not the way that you would do it, but in a way that's going to make them not want to be seen. It really, it's almost like each partner is there's two things they could do. They could either push their partner into their worst, or they can push their partner into their best. In my marriage, I'm actually married to my partner is not the most vocal, and I'm pushing a lot of times and celebrating when I can get some expression, right? And we're in the positive there. But if I'm just in my own self and just wanting what I want, then I can push us both into our worst. So I think we have a great opportunity in our relationship to really make our partner, better.
I love that. I think also you highlight really well that, we do have the control to go either way, don't we?
Mm-hmm.
And, my husband and I, we've done a lot of work, and we understand that at a certain time at night, if we're both tired, we push the wrong way, we are both going to snip at each other. There's just no two ways about
Yeah.
it. So, but we were so conscious of that. We're like, okay, it's a snipping time now. Like, if you push me, I'm going to push back. We're not going to enjoy it. So let's just say nothing and then go to bed and have a good night's
Yeah.
sleep.
Yeah.
How aware do you think are the average person of the power they have? I don't know that, you know, obviously I'm a therapist, I do a lot of work on this, but I've had to learn it a lot as well.
Yeah, I would say that we are oblivious to this. So, I've had a mentor for the past, I don't know, over a decade, and he says all the time that I've seen thousands of couples, and he's been doing it for 40 years. He's got so much experience, and he says he'll do a therapist training, and he'll say, who here has clients or has ever had a client that comes in and says, I am here because I want to learn how to be more effective in my communication with my partner. Now, they may say that, but that is not what they lead in with, right? And so he's
Hmm.
asking basically, like, how many of you really have a client who is coming in because they want to be a better person? And the truth is that I would say that is a very, very small percentage, like 0.01, right? Because we're coming in because she's not listening, he's not doing
Mm.
it. There's a complaint that is the presenting issue. So if we really understood the question that you asked, if we really understood the influence that we had, then we would all be coming in saying, hey, I want to get better at influencing my partner, or I want to get better at influencing the relationship to be more healthy. And, in my default, I also go back to, I need you to change for me to feel more comfortable. It's, if the external situation were better, then I would feel better. Right.
Of course, and that is not what we need. So I guess that's the thing, isn't it? It's recognizing that yes, there may be issues with the other partner for various reasons, but also we have to look at ourselves inward as well and go, but is it all them? How much is me? And it goes back, I guess, to what you said at the very start, which is asking different questions. Not what can I do for you, but like how can we enable this? How can we make this better? And
Yeah.
shifting the perspective.
Yeah. I will tell you the biggest game changer for my clients and for myself, my own life. I want to build this up because I think this is the most important, I would say the most important principle in my life. And it is a get out of jail free card. Maybe it's not free. It costs a lot. I don't know how to frame it, but it's just very, very important. There is a question that I ask, my clients or myself when we're going through things is, what is the problem that I am having? If I can
Mm.
frame it in the way of what is the problem I'm having, then I can do something about it. And I'll give you an example. Like, if my partner makes a mess in the kitchen, then I would say, this is not the right answer. I have a problem with my partner making a mess. That's not the problem I have. If I can get drilled down a little bit further, it is, I have a problem with having a messy kitchen,
Hmm.
right? Um,
Mm.
one of my biggest longstanding relationship issues was actually on vacations. My wife and I would be traveling. We would get in the car. And it would happen like within the first hour. It would be this whole shit show. She would be wanting to listen to the radio, and I would want to talk. And we had these two different competing interests. And I would get into this emotional place where she doesn't want to talk to me. I'm not important. All of these things that I wasn't able to to share my vulnerability. I was just able to ask questions like, why don't you want to talk? Or, those kind of things. And to fast forward a few years, what we found out is that her interest is listening to the radio and my interest is talking. The problem I have is I need to have conversations in order to feel okay, or I need conversations to make me feel, important or special, or whatever the case might be. So that would be my problem. And what I was able to do with that is understand that it's my problem and I need to fix it. It is not my wife's job to come up with conversation topics to initiate the conversation. And I don't know if it's stereotypical of women, but a lot of women will say, I just want to talk. I want more emotional connection. And if they do, then that's great. But that's their problem. I have a problem with desiring more emotional connection. And so then what can I do about that problem? And so what my wife and I do, we do not really have any issues with this now, is she'll turn off the radio at some point and she'll say, do you want to talk about anything? And I now know, because I was curious, that she doesn't have it's not that she doesn't have it, maybe the capacity, but she doesn't come up with things to talk about. Like, so if I want to talk, I have to come up with a topic. She's happy to talk, but she said, to me, like, I don't have anything to talk about when you ask that question. right? So if you can think about what you're asking your partner to do, are they capable? Are they able? And if we can own the thing, like I do not, my kitchen is probably pretty messy for other people. But if my problem is I have a problem with having a messy kitchen, then it takes the focus off my
Mm.
wife or my husband, and it focuses on me dealing with me.
I love that. Do you know what's really interesting? The number of people I've met who communication in cars is a challenge. Because my husband and I had the same thing. I had another podcast guest on a few months ago. He was telling me the same thing. And people I know, it's something about getting into a car that I guess you're in a confined space. You're there for a prolonged period of time. And that's when really the differences in your personalities have nowhere to go.
Yeah. Yeah. We get trapped in cars. I mean, like a lot of yeah, for me, I've had that same experience where people have fights in cars. And I
Mm,
think sometimes it is a place where, now I have the opportunity to talk to them, and the other person, one of the things that if you ask a person, can we talk, is, that person who, avoids conflict is going to shut down. I just
mm,
did a video on it. It was yesterday, and it was like I was giving the one question to ask that will change your dynamic when your partner is shut down. Do not ask, can we talk, or what's wrong? Those two questions are like, slamming the door shut and padlocking it. It's like they're not going to say anything. Instead, you might say, is this something you want to talk about now or later? And the or later is like a relief for that partner, that they don't have to talk right now. And then we can talk about how to effectively bring it up later. But I think it's really important to give them the space to not.
I love how simple that is. And I think you make a really good distinction with the whole, again, the talking isn't always for the person asking the questions, for the person who's been asked. It is for the person asking that question. And so
Yeah.
by flipping it to give the other person the space to kind of go, I know there's something up. I know we need to talk, but you don't have to do it now. I'm here when you're ready.
Hmm.
That's a really powerful but so simple shift.
Yeah. Yeah.
How often do you sort of come across people who basically overcomplicate the process, I guess? We construct these things in our minds, and actually simple is what we all need.
Every single day. I think every single session, right? Even, we have a breakthrough session and then they come back the next time. And I do like I do short, powerful sessions. I don't keep people doing this work for long, but it takes a few before it sticks. They might come in and I think they have amazing, powerful breakthrough. And then I say, let's pick up where we left off. And they do not have that insight it didn't carry over.
Mm,
I think we go back to, it's something about us, our human nature, that we seek the situation to make us comfortable. Like, as soon as I am in pain, then I need you to change, right?
hmm
This is just kind of where we go.
It's interesting, isn't it? And it all comes again. It circles back around so nicely to your starting thing of it isn't about the self. It is about making the other person more comfortable. Now, if people don't know how to, so say people know there's an issue with their relationship, they don't know how to address that in the first place. Do you have any sort of advice to go? This is how you would open that conversation or open up the space, perhaps, to have that conversation. Is there anything you'd advise?
I have the 7-day relationship breakthrough series, right? And in the very first episode, or the very first kind of like the day, what the exercise is, has nothing to do with the other person at all. Again, this all comes back to like us. And if you think about it, like if your partner isn't helping you, isn't giving you appreciation, isn't doing, all of the, you can list the things that people come in with, and we do any kind of directing at the other person, it just shuts them down.
Mm,
Like, because if you think about it, if you're in a bad mood and you try to talk to somebody else to change them, it's almost like you're going to make them worse. So I think the first thing is to start doing, I call it it's the daily double. It's doing 2 things every day for the other person. And I would say that within a day or two, that person is going to be curious and be wondering, almost in a sense, like, what is going on? Why are you being so nice? I mean, that's extreme if you did it really well, but most people, it takes a little bit longer for their partner to, to notice something. But I think just the shift in ourselves, or one of the things that, because I've worked with women and a couple of men too, who come in without their partner and they want to make that change. And so I have them working, I suggest things about like changing their own mindset about things, writing down things that they like about their partner because what we focus on tends to grow, right? And so if you're just focused on they're not giving appreciation, they're not doing this, they're not doing that, are there any positive aspects that we can just start with? Because if we can
Mm,
start with bringing in, generating some goodwill, then we can eventually open up the conversation. And I'm not saying you have to do this for weeks or months. I'm just saying initially there's got to be some kind of desire to, in a sense, be of service. Now, if you're the avoidant partner who has not said anything for 5 years and you're ready to blow your top, you know what I mean? You're just ready to like, you got to say something, then, I think it's telling your partner, hey, I'm not happy. I've been, I don't think those are the people that we would generally attract. We talk about the people who are more focused on themselves, right?
mm, I love that.
Yeah.
And have you ever seen any situation where you just think genuinely this isn't recoverable? Or have you managed to always pull it back from the brink if relationships aren't
Well,
working?
two things with that. I would say one, I never pull anybody back from the brink. One thing, and it took me a few years to really recognize this, is I have lots of good tools, and it is totally up to the people, right, to do that. That's one of the pitfalls for us therapists, is that we can help people, right? We're gonna fix people up. And so I would say that I don't do that. But there are some couples who say we saw a therapist and they said maybe we should get a divorce or we should separate. And if there's violence or something like that, that's a different question. But for the
Hmm.
typical, like they are just so awful, I would not suggest that. There's one instance where I would say they're not recoverable. And I do meet with some couples who are trying to decide if they want to work on it or if they want to call it quits. And the question is, do you have any willingness or do you have the capacity to try? There's not
Mm,
a, do you want this relationship to work? Because that would be a no. It's more of, have you already made a decision that you don't want this? Because if that is the case, then it is not recoverable, right? If there's one person who's leaned out so far that they're 100% sure, then it can't be recovered. It's unfortunate. There's a woman, Michelle Weiner Davis. She wrote a book, The Divorce Remedy. And I like a lot of the principles in that book. There's the one criticism I have is like you can save any relationship, and I would agree with her, except for if the person has decided they're moving on, then it's really, I know, it's painful for the person who's trying to make themselves over, to try to become unselfish, to try to really work on themselves. I mean, I guess it won't hurt them, but it's, they're them thinking they're doing it because they're going to get the relationship back. It
mm,
just may not happen.
yeah, no, that's fair. Brilliant. How can people work with you, find you if they want to ask you more, do anything else with you?
Yeah. My website, couplespeak.com, because actually, I like the idea of there's a specific language that couples speak. So it's couples speak. There's two S's, couples and speak. That's the website they can find me on. I have lots of videos on YouTube, and my private practice is Emergent Relationship Center, but we can probably drop a link or, something like that.
Definitely. Actually, I've got one more question for you because just triggered with the name.
Hmm.
Have you read the book, The Seven Love Languages?
Yes. Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
Do you recommend it or not?
So I just did a podcast on Valentine's Day about that. I love it. It's very accurate. They nailed my love language. There's a specific dialect, I would even say. The thing that I said on Valentine's Day was, it doesn't necessarily help you unless you're willing to, how do I want to say this? I don't, you have to listen to the podcast on Valentine's Day. I recommend that. It's a short one. He is amazing at just being able to describe what people want. But we have this idea that if my partner knows what love language I am, then they will be able to speak it. And if we go
Hmm.
back to that principle that I was telling you about, if we're not understanding what it costs our partner or what they think and feel, there's another. I mean, I put my stuff out there. I mean, I don't know if I told you or not that I wrote a book, What to Do When You Do Give a, and there's a curse word in it. I won't
Ah,
say it on your podcast.
you can say it.
But
It's fine.
what it is, it's my experience of how terrible I screwed up my relationship, right? How close to the brink we got, and how to really repair it. And I always put my stuff out there is basically what I'm saying. It's like, that's, I think your mess becomes your message.
Hmm.
And I thought, well, if I just, first of all, if I have to tell my partner what I want, then it doesn't count, which is not true. If you tell him to get you flowers and he gets you flowers, then he got you flowers because he loves you, because he wants to make you happy. But I couldn't get any flowers. And what I found out was that what if your partner thinks, just like mine does, now we've made some progress, but what if your partner thinks things are a waste of money? Or what if they're scared of balloons? Or what if? Love language isn't going to help you in that area. So it's a great book. And I think we need to take a step further and understand we may need to express ourselves more clearly about what we want, and we may need to understand our partner's limitations to give us that thing.
Absolutely. Brilliant. Jessica, thank you ever so much. Really interesting. I think everyone should come and listen to you and your podcast as well, because I think communication would solve so many problems. Better
Yeah.
communication, that is. So yeah,
Yeah.
brilliant. Thank you ever so much for your time. I'll put all your links in the show notes, but thank you again for being here.
Yeah. Wonderful to talk with you. Thanks so much.